Hi, good morning. My name is Kim, and I operate and run the store called Resuscitated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Our nonprofit name is Paramedic Resilience Society. We are doing business as Resuscitated. And what we are is a thrift boutique and vendor space marketplace where we rent spaces to vendors and we sell their items for them. And we're also a thrift boutique, which the proceeds go back to our mission for our nonprofit for paramedics and EMTs in private and volunteer sectors. The private sector ambulance transport and 911 system is very important to each community. Rural communities rely heavily on volunteer agencies, and larger cities rely on private ambulance companies to provide emergency services, transportations, transfers out of hospitals. And the reason I started this nonprofit was I was a paramedic for 34 years in the private sector, mostly. And throughout that, I have come across several co-workers who had family tragedies or personal tragedies where it was a financial hardship for them. So I would do a pulled pork sandwich fundraiser for these individuals to help offset some of the costs, whether it be for medical care or, sadly, funeral expenses. The private sector is, although it's a very important part of EMS, it's not as recognized as the public servants like fire departments and the police department. We need the private sector to have a little bit more spotlight shown on them, on their importance, because they are first responders and we are often an overlooked branch of first responders. We do not receive the same kind of medical benefits, pay and paid time off and sick time as the government agencies do. And there are reasons for that. You know, it's difficult to give everybody excellent paid benefits and everything when the ambulance reimbursement rate is not very good for the private sector. Well, anyone in general, but the private sector has a little bit more burden to carry because, especially in the Central California area where we are located, it's because most of the clientele in the areas are Medi-Cal or Medicare based, which everybody deserves access to emergency medical services. That's not the point here. The point is that the state only will reimburse those that are on Medi-Cal and Medicare a small amount. Say Medi-Cal a few years ago when I was running the ambulance district, the reimbursement rates for Medi-Cal was only $150, no matter what service we provided. And with that $150, the average call probably takes an hour. And when I was doing the ambulance staffing and everything, just to staff an ambulance with your paramedic and EMTs for just 1 hour, basic staffing, was $164 an hour. So if you do the math, you were already in the deficit when we picked somebody up with those insurances. And that creates kind of like a vacuum where the private providers are not able to give the same benefits and things like that fire and police might have because of government subsidies and things like that. So the private sector is very necessary, and the people that work these private sector ambulances are every bit as qualified as people in the fire departments, paramedics and EMTs in the fire departments. What usually ends up happening is the majority of the people will get their career start in the ambulance service, the private ambulance service, and then they'll go on to be firefighters, nurses, doctors, police officers, correction officers, etc. But there is a large percentage that stay in the private sector and make that their lifelong career, as I did for 34 years. And the job is difficult. What we see every day in, day out, is traumatic, and it leaves everlasting scars, and it is a tough job to do, but we love to do it. But there is a need for us to start giving the private sector the recognition that they deserve and the contributions that they make to all communities. It would be very expensive for a city, say the size of Fresno, which I believe is around 700,000 in population, for the fire departments to acquire all the equipment, all the medications, all the paramedics, all the EMTs to staff these engines if they were to go into ambulance transport business. It would cost it would cost the taxpayers an excessive amount of money. I mean, it would be really difficult to get that staffed up. So the counties contract out ambulance services, 911 ambulance services, and private contracts. They contract those out to individuals. They put them out for bid every so often, and they award the ambulance services the contracts. And especially Central California EMS Agency, which is responsible for Fresno, Kings, Tulare, Madera Counties, which is also the same service area that Paramedic Resilience Society services. They do a really good job of making sure that the fee schedule is taken care of. It's not the fee that we get for private insurance does have a cap on it that CCMSA puts in through their contract. So it's not like we show up and then you're going to get a $10,000 ambulance ride to the hospital. We don't do that. Central California CCMSA doesn't do that. They have a set price, and only will raise prices when they deem it's necessary. So it's not like the private sector has the capability to increase their prices. I will say private insurance does pay more, and it is more lucrative, but that's not always the case when it comes to emergencies. And like I said, everybody's due the same care, regardless of what insurance or insurance that you don't have. But I'm just trying to explain why benefits and sick time and vacation time is different. It's a different kind of situation. So with all my years in the service, I have come across a lot of folks who need a little extra help. In the beginning of my career, I needed a little bit of extra help, and I was fortunate enough to have a coworker provide that assistance for me, and I never forgot that. It has always been from that point on a mission for me to kind of help others the way that I was helped. And I loved EMS so much, and I would have been devastated to have to leave that career because of financial hardships and things like that. So I was very grateful to that individual for the help that they gave. So that's kind of the inspiration, and I've tried to kind of live up to that and help where I can. So upon retiring out of the ambulance service, I decided to start my nonprofit. I was always planning to do the nonprofit, and it was always going to be a thrift store. And when I started Paramedic Resilience Society back in December 2023, was when all the paperwork was finalized, I rented a little shelf at a store, Beyond Treasures on Bullard and West here in Fresno, and rented a shelf from the store and started selling the items that I was finding at thrift stores and estate sales, etc. And I did really well at that. So that kind of exposed me to the idea of places that have vendors, which rent spaces from us, and then we sell their items. So I decided to combine the two to kind of give me a little bit of a head start on being able to start the nonprofit with the store. So that's how Resuscitated came about. So the name Resuscitated and Paramedic Resilience Society, I really wanted to tie it into the theme of paramedics and EMTs. And Resuscitated seemed like an adequate name since the majority of the stuff that we sell here is secondhand. Kind of goes with renew, recycle, reuse, resuscitate. And it has been since May of 2024 that we rented the space. We had our grand opening on August 2024. And now I'm at that point where I really need to start getting my name out about the nonprofit and the things that we offer. We offer scholarships for folks who want to become EMTs, scholarships for EMTs wanting to promote to paramedics, and also some financial assistance for those unforeseen tragedies where, you know, your 3-day off bereavement leave probably isn't enough for some of the traumatic incidences that happen in your own personal life. And to be able to allow people a little bit of grace to take some extra time. And if I can pay your electric bill or help buy groceries or something like that, that takes the pressure off while our first responders are dealing with their own personal loss and their own personal situations. It is a hard job, and it takes its toll emotionally, physically, mentally, especially mentally. And it's still a job worth doing, as well as a necessity for that. And there are some really great paramedics and EMTs in the private sector who aren't as recognized as the public servants like fire and police. And I would really like to change that, because we are a vital part in every community. And we are often the forgotten first responders. And just to kind of give a little background on the store, we have a variety of items that we sell, and a portion of all sales from the vendors go back to our nonprofit. So it goes back to help support the mission. And right now what I've been showing you is a few of our vendor spaces and the items that they have. At a later date, I'll get into more detail, showcase a little bit more. Since this is my first time YouTube, I just had to learn Instagram. So I figure, why not? I'm just gonna throw it out, climb Cringe Mountain, and get it over with. Because if I just keep sitting on my tails and waiting until I get good at something, I'm not gonna make progress. So I'm throwing it out there. It's a little jumbled, it's a little discombobulated, but it will improve. And the more that I improve, the better the videos will get. The less chattery maybe I'll be. I didn't want to over-prepare, because over-preparedness makes me strive for perfectionism, and then that makes me not do anything because I can't get it to the way that I think that perfection needs to be. So here we are. I'm throwing it out there and getting started. So I'm going to take you a tour around what we have here. These, like I said, are the vendor spaces and the items that they're offering. Now, the paramedics and EMTs really need more recognition. And I would like to not only be able to provide scholarships, financial assistance, but I'd also like to do things where we can award years of service. Say, do something. I'd rather it's a plaque and a certificate to honor these folks for the sacrifices that they make, because it's no difference in the sacrifices that the police make. It's no difference in the sacrifices that the fire departments make, nurses, any of that. And the problem is that we're not recognized in a manner that I feel is reflective of the dedication and the abilities of our first responders in the private and volunteer sectors. So I'd like to rectify that, and I'd like to bring change and bring this more in the forefront, to view it more as a profession than a stepping stone, because the majority of the people don't want to go up to fire. They don't want to be nurses. They don't want to do the things that other folks are doing, and they like the private sector. They like where they're at. They're good at it, and it is beneficial for them. And I would like to make it a little bit more appreciative and more of a career. And I'm sorry if I feel like I'm rambling, but like I said, I couldn't plan this, or I would just plan myself into not doing it. So this side that we're going over to now, we do have some vendors, some clothing vendors, and some people who rent shelves from us, but the majority of this side is the nonprofit Resuscitated, where the proceeds go directly towards our mission. And anything here marked RES goes to the mission, our mission of providing the scholarships and financial assistance. Right now, we do accept donations. We are a 501c3 corporation. We accept donations of gently used items and clothing. I have more of a vintage vibe. We don't really have a thrift store vibe in here like some of the major thrift stores. This is more of a curated thrift boutique. We do have a lot of treasures, reasonably priced, and I need to get the word out that I need to receive more donations. Monetary donations would be very helpful, so we could get some scholarships out to folks before the fall semester. That's our goal, is to have at least one full scholarship to somebody to go to an EMT class for the fall semester. We are new and funds are tight, but that is a goal that I have set by this fall semester, to be able to give one scholarship for somebody who wanted to go to the EMT program, and that would be a $1,500 cost for that. We have a website that is currently getting built for us, and once we get that going, we can link all of that stuff and tell you a little bit more about our organization and what we do. But right now, I just kind of wanted to go through and just really show what we have, touch on a little bit of things. I really don't know where this channel is going to be, what form it's going to take. It's going to be see what sticks, throw it to the wall, see what sticks, and go from there, and hopefully develop a nice following of EMS folks and people who maybe have family in the private sectors, or even any first responder sector. But right now, I'm just going to try to learn as I go, get stuff out there, because you only can do what you can do, and to just get out and do it speaks volumes. We have several clothing vendors in here as well. And I am trying not to ramble. That is like a bad habit of me, just rambling on. But here's a look at more of the store. I would, I'll try to get better videos of the store in its entirety, because I have to drag the ladder out, climb up on there, hope I don't fall down and break a hip. So I'll do that. probably in the next couple of days, so you can get a very bird's eye view of what we have. But mostly I'm trying to promote our nonprofit because that really is the driving force of the store and what we offer. So with that, like I said, I was 34 years in paramedic. It was a challenging job, but very rewarding. And what that line of work does, it serves the ADH mind a safe place, because my ADHD is crazy. But that business of everything changing, everything being chaotic, and everything being, that's where the ADHDers thrive. So I think that's how come I lasted so long in that environment, because my brain loved it, my ADHD loved it. And that's where I'm at right now. I'll get a little bit more detailed, but right now I just kind of want to throw something out there and get it started. Like I said, if you don't get it started, you're never going to start. But this is a look at the store. These are some of our products. If you see something you like, you can email. We could probably figure out something shipping, as long as it's not some monstrosity that I have to do like freight shipping, because that's just not going to happen, I'm going to be honest. But the little things we can most likely ship out to you. And here's another look. I'm going to try to get a little bit wider view from the front so you can get a better look. I'm sorry if I'm making you seasick, but here we go. I'm going to do some rearranging and some changing in the next couple of days, give it a fresher look. But here's where we are. We have 5,000 square feet of store space. As you can see, this is the smaller side where, like I said, the thrift boutique and the vendors who have shelves, and a couple of clothing vendors here. We keep the clothing in the back because it's hectic and chaotic looking at all that, so we keep it tucked in the back. But we have some very nice used clothes, lots of vintage clothes, reasonably priced. We're located at 3087 West Bullard Avenue in Fresno, California. And our hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5, Sundays 11 to 4. Here's a look on the bigger side here. Like I said, I'm just trying to give a little bit of an intro without having to chicken out because I overplanned and trying to find perfection. But here we are. Thanks for listening. Thanks for looking. Please like and subscribe, all the things. And I will see you next time. Be safe.